All
How
right,
you
well, hi.
doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Given this world, doing really well.
That's a good point. So how I want to ask you, did you work? I'm assuming you at least at some point worked with Stephen King during this. I don't know how closely, but did you like how did that part go, and how much did you get to talk to him, I guess?
Well, because we've had other experiences, we talk a lot. Ben Cavell, the co exec producer, not co-executive producer, but my partner in the show, exec producer with me, who ran the writers, and I do the everything here, the directing, the all that jazz. Uh, Ben spoke with him also, and he had a prior relationship because they did the stand, the most recent stand together. And I have a prior relationship with Stephen. So when he first sent me the galleys, it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I don't stop me if I told you this, but for me, so the answer to your question is that communication continued, and I sent Stephen an early cut of the first episode,
Mhm.
and he loved it. And Michael Wright, who's the head of the studio, and I talked about the possibility of Stephen joining us as an exec producer, which he always has the right to in
Right.
his contract, but he doesn't always choose to do. And so I wrote to Stephen and said, "Hey, by any chance, we'd love you to join us as exec producer." And within 5 minutes, he wrote back, "Yes."
Well, that's always
So,
good.
so yeah, so we sent him every script, and he saw every cut and was enormously supportive and excited about the show we were making. So we did communicate throughout, and assuming there's going to be hopefully a season two, the communication and his executive producership and our collaboration with him will continue.
Right. Were you, I mean, obviously, if he okayed it, that's the most important part. But were you worried at all, kind of what I guess the Stephen King fans would think? Because I would think that might be a big, because obviously some of them are very critical. So I'm just kind of curious, did you think at all about that or worry at all about what they might feel after, it being adapted?
I guess I always worry I'm neurotic enough that I worry, are we pulling this off, or is this going to be great? So I always say, as an artist, because I paint and do and sculpt and write and a bunch of things, I always fluctuate between audacity and insecurity, admittedly, right? And so you got to be audacious enough to feel you and the writers are right. This is the direction we're going. And we did get one of the big changes in the writer's adaptation was that Stephen's book, which is brilliant, and he sent me the galleys 5 years, and I adored it and wanted to do it right away. And we ended up five years later doing it at the right place at the right time, I believe, because it's actually even more timely. But I always felt that one of the biggest changes was that in Stephen's book, we established the character of Tim, who
Yeah.
becomes the Night Knocker. And we establish Luke, who's our lead, who comes into, who gets sucked into this world. And then there are literally hundreds and hundreds. They're on the opposite sides of the country. They're somewhere in the South. Tim ends up somewhere in the South, and Luke and the Institute is somewhere up in Maine. And one of the changes that Ben and I discussed, and the writers executed brilliantly, was making it across the river.
Hmm.
And that's something we talked to Stephen about. And I assured him that we still were going to have a very tough, arduous journey across that river when Luke escapes, because in the book he has to take a train and all this stuff, and then as fate would have it, ends up in the town where
Hmm.
Tim is, and they come together. So that was one of the biggest changes. And Stephen was very, he always tells you what he thinks. And yet he was very ultimately supportive. And I thought that it afforded us, as we pitched to Stephen, the opportunity to not pull Tim into the story because of his past and the pain he was carrying from that killing a kid as a
Hmm.
policeman. And not only that, but that crossing paths with Annie. And we made also, because in Stephen's book, she exists and is a brilliant character, is written by Stephen, but she didn't have her antenna up. She wasn't one of those people who, like what's behind you, is picking up on certain frequencies that most ordinary people don't pick up on. And certainly the kids in the Institute do. So we were able to create more magnetism between Tim's story and Luke's story that eventually brings them their two trains collide, which was going to happen anyway. And so that was one of the biggest changes, and Stephen was very supportive of that. But we certainly talked to him about it out of because, he's a genius. And also in terms of Stephen King fans, I you you sort of have to trust yourself and the people you've chosen to make it with and hope that you're doing right by the brilliant book that he's written. And there are always going to be people, I suppose, who, adore Stephen as they should and are pissed off at choices we've made, but Stephen isn't.
That's what's
And
important.
yeah, yeah, right.
So if you do hopefully get a second season, then I mean, I'm gonna assume, and I haven't read the book, but I'm gonna assume that it's gonna be a lot of it's gonna have to be a new story. So you already, I'm assuming, have something in like planned for if that happens. You've already discussed then where it would go at this point.
We in the hopes that a second season will happen. And Ben and I always felt that there was more to the story than just this one institute.
Mhm.
Clearly, Stephen writes, and we indicate in the series. Have you seen the show?
Yeah, yeah. I saw them when they first sent them. I watched them
Oh,
also.
that's right. That's right. And you like them, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I
good.
rewatched the finale last night though, and they updated the screener because half the effects were missing last time when I
Oh,
watched
yeah,
it.
they were. You bet they were.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely
yeah,
different.
I think it's pretty, I think we pulled it off. Um, so I think that yes, Ben and I always felt there was a new story. And we've got various things that we're working on right now that once we get an official pickup, which hopefully will be sooner than later, and the writers get back to the room and start working, we do have a game plan. We have essentially, being a painter, I'll call it a sketch of what the season will be, what the story will be, that we will bring to the studio and we will bring to Stephen and get input on it, and it will evolve. But yes, the answer is we do have a story and how it continues, and with a lot of our excellent actors.
Now, you mentioned a couple times being an artist, and I did want to ask you. I know obviously your work's been in Lost and in From. I mean, I doesn't necessarily look like the think paintings of yours I've seen, but has anything in this been, your pieces that were in the Institute? Because there's a lot of posters, but I don't know, and I know there's some
Well,
different
I would
things
say the
for.
only thing, in fact, I just took this down. Um, our wonderful production designer and his team made these posters, which are very timely. Stand up for your
Yeah.
world. And the bottom is from a painting of mine I did of kids standing up, holding hands as a force. Um, so certain things were integrated into some of the visuals, but there wasn't really, certainly I only do that if it's going to fit and be right.
Right, right,
I mean, I don't go, oh, great, I'm doing another show. I get to put more of my paintings
right.
in. It's not my focus. And at the
I get
same
that.
time, it's really fun when it works out that way.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, I know obviously they've advertised this as being from people who created From, as how it was originally pitched and everything when it came on the TV. We talk about this every week on our live stream when we talk about the show. And one of the things that really surprised me is I know that obviously the From fans are very, as I am, are really into it. But people were looking for From clues in this. And really, I guess, expecting there to be some answers in it. So I'm just curious kind of what your react, because I'm assuming you've at some point heard that. I'm just curious like what your reaction is to that because we're like, yeah, this is Stephen King. I don't think you're going to find out anything, but yeah, I was just kind of
Well,
curious what you thought about
well,
that.
that's interesting. We certainly didn't. It's a very different show than
Yeah.
From, and it's more of a thriller. Um, and I feel really strongly going back to and if when we talked before, I mentioned this, one of my initial inspirations for the show were the kids who suffered because it was following the Parkland school massacre. And when I saw months later that force, that group of kids who survived and lost their friends and their lives would forever be different,
Yeah.
become a political force and stand up against the local forces and the politicians and this and that, and literally said to them, "You guys screwed up. It's our world. We know how to fix it. Get out of our way." And I thought, wow, that's and and some of them are actually getting into politics as we speak now. And I go, we have screwed up the world. And so for me, the part of the inspiration of the show, and Ben feels the same way, is children shall inherit the earth, but first they have to save themselves.
Mhm.
And I hope that that will continue to be something that rings true throughout the spirit of the show, even though the plot's going to change and all that stuff. And the specific question you asked, forgive me. Oh, the tile. We never really attempted to make any kind of
Yeah.
crossovers. I mean, having Robert Joy, who plays Henry, Victor's father, be one of the head scientists was just brilliant casting, and he wanted to do it and loved it. And we do believe that there can be a crossover occasionally of actors,
Like
but
Joker.
we're very mindful of not doing
Right.
Easter eggs and things that make people think we are putting clues for From, or we are putting clues in the next in this season
Right.
of From for the Institute. They're very different shows made by a lot of the same people, which is a
Right.
joy.
Right. Talk about filming the escape with the tunnels and everything, because I would think that it would be really hard to film, obviously, in that little area.
You're talking about the exterior escape
No,
or
inside the tunnel, filming it inside the
oh, in the
the tunnel.
tunnel.
It looks like a
Yeah.
tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah, no, all those tunnels. It was look, it was hard and we had an exceptional group of actors. We ended up casting, which I'm sure the ardent fans of the books of the book um may agree or disagree with, but we ended up when we found Joe Freeman, because the trick was who is going to play Luke?
Mhm.
How do we find this kid who's written to be 13 or 14? And we made him a little older because Joe is and looks it. And then it ended up that casting a little older, even though we kept Avery the same age. And there will be a little crossover next season and From, but I won't say who or what or how. It's only casting, but not story.
Right.
But I think that um, what was your question?
Oh, about filming in the tunnel.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, filming in the tunnels. We ended up casting a little older, and we ended up working with actors, many of whom had never done film or television. Joe Freeman, his father is a very well-known English actor, and his mother's an actress, so it's genetically a part of him, but he had never acted. I don't even think he did school plays. I don't know. I think not. But the minute I saw his reading and I showed other people, it was like, oh my God. And then when I met with him on Zoom, he's the kid. And once we cast him as the maypole of the show, Ben Barnes was something else, and that was Ben was obviously going to be older, so that was a separate thing. So we had to cast kids who were a little bit older than Stephen wrote, which once again Stephen blessed because or Ben Cavell, none of us wanted this to be a sadistic
Right.
show. We wanted this to be a thriller, and we wanted, look, From is a very human horror driven show,
Mhm.
but it focuses on the people and the monsters around them and how they survive, all of the above.
Mhm.
The Institute is much more about the monsters inside the characters, right?
Yeah.
These people are doing horrific things, and it is horrifying. And yet at the same time, I wanted it not to be kids that were too young that it would be an excruciating thing to watch. I wanted it ultimately to be entertaining, and I wanted us to have to turn away at times and hate what was happening to these characters. At the same time, not be a sadistic experience, which I believe casting a bit older, and also the luck of the actors we got, they're all terrific. Mary Louise Parker and everybody else, they're all great. They play villains remarkably well and with a lot of complexity. So
Yeah.
it's not just mustache twirling bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. They do a good job though making you not like them.
Yeah. Well,
Especially
they're
Tony. I think everybody's gonna cheer whenever Tony whenever Tony
oh
gets it.
well, yeah. Tony's demise is oh, I spoil alert,
Oh, I'm
but
gonna put this up after. You're fine.
yeah, Tony's demise, it's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. Um and so there is that. And our the kids we're rooting for, and they are kids,
Mhm.
um, they take down the big dragon. They spoiler alert again, but they are able they they work together, and it's about the power of young people. That's really what I think the show's about, and hopefully will continue to be. And our world is so screwed up and so complex that I really do think the show is more important or applicable now than it would have been 5 years ago. Not to mention, we would have come out of the success of Stranger Things, which
That's
was
right.
wonderful. But the tone of Stranger Things is very different than the tone of our show. And oddly enough, and for all the Stephen King fans, they know this, the Duffer Brothers, as wonderful as Stranger Things was, and it was, and as successful, um, they took the idea of that place where the girl gets trained from Stephen King and
Wow.
Firestarter. Stephen King first wrote this place. What was it called? I forget. But whatever, in Firestarter, that's where Drew Barrymore gets trained. So so we're coming back to it. But like I said, I think in many ways, Stranger Things was made with crayons in that it was colorful, the characters were very 80s, and yet brilliantly done. And I feel like our show is a little bit more India ink.
Yeah,
You know,
quite darker, that's for sure.
yeah, quite darker, and also about something important, I think. I mean, I look around the world and I think, and also, which is coming up in the finale, I believe, the last two episodes at least, when the true believers like Sigsbee, played by brilliantly by Mary Louise Parker, says, "You have no idea how many times we have stopped Armageddon." And I wanted a moment in the show where it would take all of us liberal thinking, caring adults with kids, knowing kids, loving kids, who would never subscribe to what the hell the Institute is up to.
Mhm.
But I wanted to give that moment of, wait a minute, are they really? Have they really stopped Armageddon 20 times in the past
Yeah.
40 years? Just enough to say, oh my God. And yet still not condoning a second of what they do. And yet the world is such a mess. And so I'm hoping the show will do again season two. And I hope that no matter what season Stephen King will be a part of it, and he will bless whatever, because we don't have the second book on Mr.
Right.
Mercedes. Stephen wrote two other books that we got to use. This is going to be what we're thinking the next chapter in the journey is, and we think it can be really compelling and entertaining and scary.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm hoping there's more. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I know we're over 15 minutes, but I'll ask you really
Hey, you
quick.
know what? I'm okay. If
Oh, you're
Liz
okay?
is okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So to make sure. But been asking everybody this. So even though you're not an actor, I'm still going to ask you. If it were up to you, TP, TK, or PC, for Jack Bender, if you got one.
Um, I'm gonna go, I don't know, maybe TK. I mean, knowing what's in your mind. I often talk about our dogs with my wife. We have six dogs, and that's a whole other story. Rescues, and it's a long story. So how we were insane enough to end up with six dogs we adore. But we once had two of our dogs were having trouble and getting along, and we had a dog trainer who considered themselves a dog whisperer
Mhm.
come over and literally was saying to me, I can teach you how to know what's in your dog's mind. And I said to him, honestly, I may project, but seriously, I've got enough stuff going in my mind. I don't want to read what's going on in my dog's mind. I mean, that's just too much. And I feel that way about other people. I mean, I may read people and probably, I don't know if I'd be a better person if I really could. But the idea of being able to read minds would be difficult for me and alienating. And so I think TK might be the most fun because TP or PC, precog, and anticipating the future. I mean, how do you live with that? And yet I think probably TK. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd go crazy especially if you couldn't turn off mind reading. You see shows,
Yes.
but also, yeah, knowing the future, how would you live? You'd be
I
second
couldn't
guessing
agree.
everything.
No, I know. Or how would you make moves and make choices? I
Right,
mean, it's
right.
just, yeah, the game would be really hard.
Yeah, it would be. But moving
But
things, yeah, that would be helpful, I think.
moving stuff around isn't a bad thing. That could
Yeah,
be fun.
definitely. All right, great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I do hope you get a season two. And like, yeah, I said we've been talking about this every week and yeah, breaking it down. So it's a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll
Great.
see you again either for this next season or for From at some point. So
Yeah.
waiting for
Yeah,
that.
you'll get them both. And From is going to be great next season. And hopefully doing the Institute will be also great.
Right, right. Well,
I appreciate your support very much.
it's a fun show. I've been waiting,
Good.
waiting to talk about the finale. I gotta wait for everybody else
Yeah,
to
good.
catch up so I can talk about it.
Good.
All
Good.
right. Have a good
All
rest of
right.
your day. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
you too. And you be well. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.